USCHO.com. This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from U.S. College Hockey Online at USCHO.com, featuring conversations with college hockey coaches and players and journalists who cover the sport.
Welcome to USCHO Spotlight for Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly. This podcast is brought to you by DCU Digital Federal Credit Union. What will DCU mean to you? Find out today by visiting dcu.org. Membership required. Jim, probably, arguably, and maybe I'll even say no doubt the hottest team in college hockey since late last year has to be Boston University.
And joining us now on USCHO Spotlight, the head coach of Boston University, that's Albie O'Connell. Albie, your team coming off a Beanpot win in the championship game last Monday night. You then got a weekend off. But you're playing such great hockey of late. What do you like about this team right now?
Well, we've really become a team. I think our leadership group has done a really good job keeping the guys on task. And we've just been, kind of cranking away at it, trying to keep get better each week. And I think we've done a good job. So hopefully we can continue just to, refine our game and keep trying to get W's.
It was November 27th that you lost to Cornell down at Madison Square Garden. And at that point, your team was 43rd in the pairwise rankings. And I know some coaches don't even look at it way back then, and maybe you shouldn't. But since then, you've jumped up. You're now inside the bubble of the pairwise, would qualify for the NCAA tournament if the season ended today. What do you think has changed the most? You just mentioned, obviously, becoming more of a team, but has there been other things? Is there more buy-in? Obviously, health can sometimes be part of it. What's changed?
Yeah, I think a number of things. Definitely the buy-in. I think we've had a better commitment to defense as a group. Our shot blocking as a team is much improved. I think our D-zone coverage has, our management has. Getting healthy and getting some guys back in some positions to score. With O'Brien and Brown and Tuck and Phillips. And there's a lot of guys who were out. Peterson's been in and out. Cockrell has been in and out. McCarthy's had some injury. So just, we haven't quite really been healthy, but we've been able to manage and plug along. But I think the guys individually have had some success and some confidence. And now I think there's belief in what we're doing as a group. And I think we know how to win. Whereas before we were maybe taking a penalty at the wrong time or not scoring at the right time, or, the grip of the game was pretty tight and we were just on the wrong side of it, and it took us a little while to figure out how to put it all together. When
I look at your lines, I'm going back to the lineup you had in the Beanpot, Luke Tuck, Jay O'Brien, Ethan Phillips on one line, Master Simone, Skoog, and then Brown on the second line. That's a lot of talent, and the ability to be, have those guys healthy, spreading them out really seems to give you more scoring depth. What has that been able to do of late?
Yeah, we've had way more depth. And, you look down the lineup and, Peterson, Savannah, Armstrong, they end up cashing in on the goal at the end of the game in the Beanpot. And Peterson, he's got 8 goals. So he's a very good offensive player himself. So I think we've got really good balance. I don't know that we have a first line. I think we get 4 lines that can play. Some guys maybe, one night or another, I think we've had decent depth scoring as we've moved on. The power play's gotten better. So that's been, the big thing, getting the guys in the right situations. And a special team standpoint too. I think the power play has been pretty good of late. And it's getting guys who can handle the puck and like to shoot the puck in the right spots.
In goal, Drew Commesso has had a great season for you. Obviously got to go over and represent his country in the Olympics. But, I think a lot of people looked at that and said, boy, this could be trouble for your team. And there's many teams out there that lost players to the Olympics, and people worried a lot about them, and a lot of them came out on top. But Vinny Duplessis was fantastic in these games. I'm sure you probably already knew that you had 2 good goaltenders, but what did that affirm, the fact that you were able to, lose your best goaltender or your number 1 goaltender for an amount of time and still pull a lot of wins out of those games?
Yeah, I think it's a credit to the team in the team defense that we've played, but also Vinny just being prepped and ready to go. I think last year I think Drew went down with COVID, and we had the COVID rules where we were out 31 days. So Vinny ended up taking the net. Abe's played the first game, and then Vinny didn't lose the net. Even when Drew came back, we still played Vinny that next game versus Merrimack, and then Drew got the net back and really put it up. But we've got full confidence in him. He's got full confidence in himself. He's a tremendous athlete, really good skater, really highly motivated and competitive guy. And he's a guy that's a little bit older. He played a lot of junior hockey, so he had some good nights and some bad nights. And he's just been always kind of waiting for the opportunity, and he got it. He's made the most of it. He's played terrific.
Albie, watching the Beanpot on TV, you couldn't help but notice how electric TD Garden was with the fan sections back and the student sections back. How has it been this year to have the fans back? Is it become almost normal again, or are you still excited just to see the people there each game?
Well, it definitely seems like it's back to normal. It definitely seemed like the Beanpot was back from like the early 90s and the way the crowd was. It was awesome. Both bands going at it. Both student sections going at it. And I think there was an excitement for people to kind of have some normalcy and just get back to the Garden and making it a great event. So it was, credit goes to all the people that came out and supported it and, made it a great event. And obviously the product on the ice was pretty good. It was only a 1-goal game, but it was pretty exciting. It was kind of edgy to see it all game.
One of the things we've been talking to coaches about this season is how the job of coaching has evolved as the game has evolved. And if we go back to the late 90s when you were a player and then your stretch with several stops for experience along the way as an assistant and now as a head coach, how has the approach of coaching to the game changed as things like the speed of the game and technology and so forth have changed?
Well, the speed, guys can really skate nowadays. Our team's really quick, pretty fast. I think a lot of teams are recruiting speed as a weapon, and maybe not the big size, strength, slug type guys, but more speed as a weapon. And that's definitely something that we've done. We want to be able to play fast, but we want to be able to have the ability to get on pucks and pressure. The technology has made it, you just look from the sticks, just to the computer systems that we have and how we can coach the team through video. It's in some regards, it's like you really know what the other team's doing. And, sometimes you wish that there was no video so you could just go out there and play. It would make for a little bit more entertaining game, maybe at times, a lot more mistakes. But there's a lot of tools that you can use to try to enhance the group. And I think the basics of hockey have always kind of stayed the same, but it definitely the game has definitely evolved.
How about with the players? Is there a difference in how you need to approach a player in 2022, say, opposed to 2002?
I would say, yeah. It's quite different. I think guys are a lot more visual learners. They're always on their phones or computers and whatnot. So I think the video has helped out quite a bit. I think that the yelling and screaming from back in the old days is not really, we don't do a lot of yelling and screaming. It's more teaching, and you have to kick a guy in the butt and pat him on the back. So I think the thick skin has kind of worn off with the new generation. So I think just have a good relationship. So if you do need to lean on guys, they will respond because they know that you care. It's not a us versus you. We're kind of all in it together.
More with BU's Albie O'Connell in a moment. This podcast is brought to you by DCU, Digital Federal Credit Union. Visit dcu.org.
This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from U.S. College Hockey Online.
Know how people say life happens? Well, for me, life was happening, and I needed a new truck. I didn't have time to shop around for a good loan, so I got one from the dealer, higher interest and all. Month after month, those payments were squeezing me. So I went to DCU. They refinanced my loan and helped lower my rate, which lowered my payments. These days, I have more money in my pocket for whatever life throws at me. What will DCU mean to you? Insured by NCUA. Membership required. Visit dcu.org.
We're back now with Boston University head coach Albie O'Connell. Something else that's changed over the past couple of years revolves around the game, both on and off the ice. The change to the 3-on-3 overtime and the shootout, and also the change in the transfer rules. I'd like to start with 3-on-3 and the shootout. How's that been working out from your vantage point? Are you okay with it? Do you like it? Do you dislike it?
I love the concept. I just don't like the result of losing a hockey game going 3-on-3. If it was a tie, that's fine. You played 60 minutes at 5-on-5. If it was a tie and then you're just playing for extra points, that's fine. But to actually get a loss or a win is, it's a little goofy. We've been on the right side of it. We've been on the wrong side of it. And the shootout's fine. It's just an extra, it's just for the extra point. But it's just that end. If you end up winning that game or losing that game, it's, that's something that hopefully that will change. If it just ends up being after 60 minutes a tie and then you're just playing for extra points. I'm hoping that it does change. I think we were told that that's what it was going to be, and then it changed. So I think the coaches across the country are a little frustrated with actually losing a game in 3-on-3.
You didn't go heavy into adding transfers to your program. Some schools have really made use of it. What is BU's approach to that, and how are you looking at that going forward? Well, it's kind of like free agency, right? Free agency in the draft. Your recruiting is going to be the most important thing of getting guys that through high school and watching along the ways, rather than getting a guy who's maybe just a 1 year. We went through the process last year where obviously Matt Brown came available, and he was too good of a player to not go onto the portal and try to get him. I think everyone in our league, everyone in the country was trying to get him. So we were fortunate to get him. But at the same time, the younger recruits are important. They're the lifeblood of the future of the team. So I think we're going to stick as much as we can to our recruiting rather than, go to free agency.
Albie, here we are in the last 2 weeks of the regular season. I mentioned right off the top that you've climbed to the right side of the pairwise bubble. How much do you even talk to the team about that? They're obviously aware, as you said, kids love to be on their phones and on their iPads. They're looking at sites that have the pairwise, I'm sure. But do you address that? Do you talk about it? Or is that just something you just let happen? No, we've been focused really just on the next day, every day. Like we talked yesterday about having a good day, and it'll be the kind of the same. We're getting prepared to play, BC on Friday. Obviously a rivalry game, tough opponent, and we're just trying to go and win a hockey game and prepare for that. So that's the way we've kind of been all year. We haven't talked about pairwise. We haven't talked about league standings. I told the guys, if you go on the website, just shut it right off, because it's not going to help. Like it really isn't. Of if or what could be. We just got to live in the moment and just continue to try to get better. You are in it though in the league standings. Currently sitting in a tie for 5th place, but with how close the top of Hockey East is this season, nobody seems to be wanting to pull away. You're actually less than a weekend sweep out of first place, just 5 points behind both UMass and UMass Lowell. The big thing it does seem, though, is to not finish 6th. You want to avoid that first round matchup. So you look at these 2 weekends. You have Boston College this weekend, then you'll close the season at Maine. 3 of the last 4 on the road. What do you see in these last 4 games? I think they're going to be tight. I think everyone is trying to jockey for position, and I think it's going to go down to the wire. It's going to go down to the last game to see who does get that home ice spot, maybe that bye, but whether you get it or not doesn't really matter. You just want to be playing well. If you have to play Wednesday, you play Wednesday, and if you play well, you get some momentum going into that next game. So having that week off or weekend off this past weekend has been pretty good to recharge the group. So if we do get to that point, hopefully we'll have good energy, and we're trying to make sure we manage, the team's energy at this point. I think we gave them 4 days off after the Beanpot. We practiced twice and gave them a couple of days off, practiced twice, and then gave them the weekend off. And we told them that was an important time to try to rest the body and get ready for a good push. But I think it's, if you end up in that Wednesday game, it is what it is. We're going to push hard to try to not be in it, but we really just got to kind of focus on what we're doing. You've mentioned the Wednesday game, and it is a game now. It's not a best of 3. first round or best of three quarterfinals as it was for so many years. The tournament switched last year because of COVID, but it seemed that, ADs and coaches and presidents seem to like that single elimination format. As a coach, I know that it probably becomes a little bit more perilous, I guess is probably the right word, when you're in a one and done format. But do you like that single elimination approach to a postseason?
We've only gone through it once, so it's, we were on the wrong side of it, last year, but it's fine. It's the same for everyone. And it probably puts a little bit more excitement that there could be an upset. Any team in our league on any given night could beat one. So it's gonna make for an interesting playoff.
I'll leave it lastly, your rival Boston College this weekend. They're not having the season that I think a lot of people thought they would, but still a pretty good team. The rivalry is still as good and intact as it always has been.
Oh yeah. When we had them there earlier this year, it was banged out building, and we go there on Friday. So I assume it's going to be a good crowd, and it'll be our senior night that next night. So it should be, hopefully good crowds and good energy in both buildings. And the rivalry is real. They got a really good hockey team. There's pockets of time that teams go through stretches in the seasons. And, I think they had some injuries. They had some guys maybe on COVID, and they got down and, maybe lost a couple games. But at the same time, you watch them play Northeastern and Beanpot. You could argue that they outplayed them. They just didn't get some finish. And they had some guys missing overseas. And I think, get McBain, McLaughlin, Hellickson back into their lineup. You get three high-quality players, two centermen that can really make a difference in games. And they haven't really been around for a while. So it'll be a really tough task.
Well, it should be great hockey again this weekend. 2 more weeks of Hockey East play left. Albie O'Connell, thanks so much for your time. Good luck the rest of the way. It's been fun to watch this team really improve over the last 2-3 months.
Thanks a lot.
That's Boston University head coach Albie O'Connell. Jim, 14-1-1 since the loss to Cornell at Madison Square Garden at the end of November. Since then, the only loss was 2-1 in overtime to Vermont, and there was a 3-3 tie with arch rival Boston College. But otherwise, an unblemished slate and a beanpot victory. Things are going all in the right direction for BU.
Yeah, I think you can argue that those two blemishes, the loss and the tie, are a puck bounce away from going in a different direction. But what this team has done to turn things around, and we talk about it a lot on our Monday podcast with Derek Schooley. I feel like BU has been a topic that we've brought up a number of times. But they were down and out, 43rd in the pairwise. You're not even, close to the NCAA picture to now be on the right side of the NCAA bubble, albeit in the last spot or the second to last spot. They're right there. They can't afford many blemishes for the rest of the way. They've got to continue to play great hockey, but to get this ship on the right path. And I know that they had some big injuries early, basically losing 3 of their best forwards, but to right a ship shows great leadership in the room and a really good coaching job by that coaching staff.
I want to pick up on that topic. He mentioned that there's really no first line on that team and that they're scoring, really, if you look at it, scoring by committee. Nobody jumping out, but a lot of people with a lot of points. When you have a team like that where you can depend on 3 or 4 lines to score, that gives you a lot more consistency night to night, because if one line or one player is having an off night or is out of the lineup, you've got somebody right there to pick up. Is that part of the success they've had this year?
I think so. And, when you think about depth, if every team, say, has 3 strong lines and you have 4, that opponent probably doesn't want to see their 4th line matched up against any of your 4 lines. And, 4 against 4 is usually a mismatch when you have that much depth. And that's what BU has right now. But their top 2 lines, I think, are elite. Real good scorers, finishers, and playmakers, both, on both of those top 2 lines. I know that he likes the depth of his 4 lines, but when you get the scorers of guys like O'Brien and Matt Brown and Tuck and Master Simone, and there's just so much talent on that roster. I think that this could be a dangerous team. But as I mentioned, just a moment ago, there's not a lot of room for error. The fact that they had such a slow start to this season really doesn't leave a lot of room for mistakes down the stretch.
The way the Hockey East schedule is set up, you go right into the playoffs. There's no weekend off for some teams, no bye that you get to earn except not playing that Wednesday night first round game. How huge is it to have that weekend off and heal some bumps and bruises that every player has this time of year?
Oh, I bet it was big, you heard him say that they were able to give their players 4 days off over the last week or so since winning that bean pot. And that's big. You want to have a little bit of rest this time of year. Everybody's banged up. And, before we got on, I just kind of said, hey, are you guys healthy? And Albie kind of gave the shrug. Well, everybody's banged up this time of year, but getting a little bit of rest, being able to heal some of those wounds, get those bruises to heal as well. That will go a long way. The one thing I will say is when you're hot, sometimes you don't love the time off. And now you're going to have to be able to pick it up. I don't think the emotion will be lacking this week, though, when you think about the fact that you're going to play your rival in Boston College twice, beginning Friday night at their barn. So I think that is maybe the one benefit that you may have had some time off, but you're not going to be lacking emotion. There will be plenty of emotion both games this weekend.
And then they get to go to Orono, where Ben Barr has Maine playing very well.
He does, in that they're a tough team. They're going to be a tough out in the tournament. And the current BU player might not know what the rivalry of BU Maine was back in the 90s, when Albie was playing at Boston University. That was some of the greatest hockey I remember seeing. I mean, if you go back to the 92-93 team for Maine that won the national championship, there was only one loss that season for the Black Bears, but it came to Boston University when BU rallied from 6-2 down and won 7-6 in overtime. So there have been some great games between BU and Maine. That's a great way to be able to finish the hockey season for both clubs.
I enjoyed the conversation about how the game and how the players have changed, but I want to key in on one thing that we asked Albie about, and that's the 3-on-3 overtime. His suggestion, I think, may be the brilliant compromise. End the game in the tie and then play the 3-on-3 and then the shootout for the lead point.
Yeah, I think there's many ways, and we've approached this year. I still favor the NHL version where you end the game in a tie, but if you win in 3-on-3, you get a full win credit. There's no reason that can't happen. Even if you want to get into the pairwise, you get 100% of a win if you get a victory in overtime or the shootout. You get a 50% if you lose in overtime of the shootout. It's not that difficult. Everybody thinks that the math is hard because they say, college games have always been worth the same number of points, no matter if you play it in regulation or overtime. It's time to change. And you can see that this system's not working. We have talked to too many coaches this season about the 3-on-3 overtime, and I don't think we have found any coach that is satisfied. There's too much displeasure. So watch out this summer. There'll be a lot of conversations in Naples, I'm sure, right after the Frozen Four is over. These coaches will be talking about it, and I think we should expect there will be some changes.
Maybe we should fly you down to sunny Naples, Florida, and be a consultant for the American Hockey Coaches Association at their convention.
I wouldn't fight it.
Well, that'll wrap it up for this edition of USCHO Spotlight. It's been brought to you by DCU Digital Federal Credit Union. What will DCU mean to you? Find out today by visiting dcu.org. Membership required. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger, and we'll catch you next time.
This has been the USCHO Spotlight, a production of U.S. College Hockey Online. Visit uscho.com/podcasts to listen or subscribe.